Quads as a series is happening as a co-production between Nelvana in Toronto, Canada, and Animation Works here in Perth, and partially in Melbourne as well. But it's also based on the cartoons of an American. But Nelvana had bought the rights to Callahan's work years ago. They saw a lot of potential in it. And there are various parts of the show are being done in different countries. It's not split up exactly half in Australia and half in Canada. They're doing more parts of the script writing and the design. We're doing more of the actual animation and the post-production. Quads was a real quantum shift in ways of animating. These days, when you mention to somebody you're an animator and they don't know much about it, they go, "Oh, it's all done on computers, isn't it?" And we've always been going, no, you still have to do all the drawings, and then, yeah, we scan them in and colour them. And unfortunately, on this show, we have to go, "Oh, well, yes, it is all done on the computer," because that's the style of what we're working with, using Flash, which is a macromedia program designed for basically for creating material for websites. But it's a very clever program and has a lot of animation techniques involved with it. And the Canadian director and early on his co-director had done a lot of work with Flash themselves and decided that it would suit Callahan's style very, very well. It's basically, it's like using cutout animation, but it's got a lot more ability to it than straight cutout. You can stretch and squash shapes, so you use all the classic animation techniques and tools, but using them on the computer. Drawing with a pen on a Wacom tablet, rather than drawing with a mouse, which is like drawing with a brick. At least you've got some control. But most of the drawing is done at the early stage. Most of the drawing is done at design time and storyboard time. Then once the characters are designed, they're broken up into all their separate elements. So you get a head, you get a set of eyes, you get a mouth. You might get separate hair because you want the hair to follow through and move to soften it off. Each arm is broken into a couple of bits so you can move them around. Usually the hand will be joined, but occasionally if you want a real expression, you'll have a separate hand. And that way the whole thing can be moved around. You put a character there, you pick up this bit, move it, pick up that bit, move it. It's a bit like stop motion when people create animation with puppets. Because of the way Callahan draws, we've tried to follow that same sort of line work. Due to his very limited mobility of his hands, he's got a very wobbly line. You can't draw exactly the same way twice. He's never quite sure where the pen's going to go off to some of the time. So it's a very naive style, but that's fun in itself and it's fresh. And we've tried to keep that going throughout all the designs, the character designs, the props, the backgrounds, even the effects. The effects are very simple compared to most shows that are on. There's no fancy glows or anything. Whereas there's an effect, it's boom in your face, it's flat colour. All the backgrounds are designed and painted in flat colour because they suit that really. It's a very two-dimensional show. We've often stayed away from going terribly three-dimensional with it, which is different to most shows. Most animation, you're trying to stretch that envelope a bit because you don't want it just to look as though it's plotting across the screen. But on this one, we've flattened perspective and flattened the colours to try and be truer to the drawings that initially came from, the cartoons of Callahan himself. Animation Works has had a long history of working with children's drama series, and I've been at the forefront of recruiting people for these shows, and I've been very, very proud of the talent we've been able to pull in. Always trying to make sure we've got a really good team that can lead on to the next production. A lot of our animation staff were almost computer phobic. They'd never used them, or the computers were located on the other side of the studio where the camera guys did their work, but they didn't need to know about them and they were happy not to know. So when we were setting up this show and recruiting for it, we were still after people with animation experience, because we found that over the years the people who can really animate need classic animation training. It's the best way to go. If you look at the big companies in America, even the 3D companies, they always hire animators, 2D animators, teach them the software. And we did the same here. Some of the people that worked with us didn't want to make the transition, went off to other things, but quite a few of the experienced animators came with us. And we also picked up a lot of fresh talent, people who had a real desire to get into animation, who hadn't had the chance to do the training or the years that you would normally spend drawing. And we threw them in at the deep end. We split the production up into teams of animators, so there were 4 teams, and each team had a leader who was very experienced and another, certainly 2 experienced people in every team, but 1 or 2 people who were quite fresh and new. They lent heavily on the experienced people, but a lot of the young people that we brought in had computer skills of one sort or another. We didn't bring them in because they had a lot of computer skills, but they were ready to leap into the software, and that held no fears for them, whereas the traditional animators were going, skirting their way around it a bit. And within the first couple of months, especially within that time frame, we found that the younger people were actually producing results that were equivalent to, if not in some cases better, than our traditional animators. But after about 2 months, we found that the classically trained people were really getting the hang of the software and bringing all their training and all their experience to bear with beautiful results. One of the great things about working this way is that with Flash, you can see the results of your animation very quickly. It's all happening in real time, it's all happening in front of you. You make something move, you look at it straight away. Classically with animation, you make something move, you're going to test it on a line tester, you've only got every 4th or 8th drawing, it looks good. And then you pass it on to somebody else who does the drawing, the clean-up drawings, pass it on to the in-betweener, and a month later you might see it. But here it's instantaneous. It's a lot of fun in some ways. It's instant gratification for the animators. If it's working really well, you go, oh, great. If it's working terrible, you go, oh, well, let's throw it away and change it. And in my position as director, when the material comes through from the animators, often there'll be little things I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they'd done that a bit further, or if we did that there, and I can literally take the file they've created and just pick up the little bits, make those little adjustments, put it back in, and it's there. I can see what they've done, but I can adjust it right on the spot and see whether my changes work or not. There's a lot more in the show than just plain humour. There's a lot of meaning and depth behind it, some of which reflects Callahan's own life concerns. There's a couple of the episodes have a lot to do with alcoholics and alcoholism, because he's a recovering alcoholic, and virtually every show refers to drinking too much and what you should do about it, or how to be careful of it, without lecturing. I mean, that's what we've tried virtually in every episode. We're trying to portray some of the serious aspects of not just the disabled, but people in any sort of unforgiving situation, but without being heavy-handed about it. I find you can get a lot more across to people by entertaining them, making them laugh, and let them think about it afterwards than lecturing to them on the spot. Maybe the next time they come across a person in a wheelchair, or someone who's mentally disabled or differently abled, as the saying goes, they'll treat them differently. Treat them more like real people.